They posted the clips and the questions came faster than the facts. Who was in the frame? What tugged at the phone? Why did the reflection not belong to anyone in the room? Each of these 6 pieces of footage arrived wrapped in ordinary life. A rental booking, a renovation crew, a family photo, and left behind a trace of something that didn't fit. What follows is a careful retelling of those encounters, what the witnesses saw, what they did next, and which plausible explanations survive the initial scrutiny. Before we begin, stay to the end, subscribe, hit notifications, and like if you want more evidence-first collections like this. And if you have a clip that needs a second look, send it to the address in the description. The first clip comes from Sydney, who rented a short-term house for a weekend rehearsal dinner. The upload caption read, "Something grabbed my phone on the stairs." The footage itself is handheld, vertical, late evening. A narrow stairwell, white paint dulled by shadows, framed family photos along the wall. Sydney's voice is audible off-camera, soft and steady. "I'm going to show you this slower because I don't want to freak anyone out." She reaches the landing and points the camera down the steps. For 10 seconds, there's nothing unusual. The soft hum of conversation from the kitchen, a clink of a glass, until the phone is jarred forward, as if someone had yanked the bottom of the case. It slides on the step, teeters, and then rights itself. The motion is brief but unnerving. The microphone catches a startled intake of breath. A dog in the background begins to whine. Sydney later told viewers she had set the phone down on the step earlier while arranging shoes, and had returned to retrieve it. "I turned around and it was like pulled," she wrote beneath the clip. Her follow-up post included a short clip of the step where she had placed the phone. The surface was clean, no obvious slope, no exposed wiring. The rental host confirmed via direct message that no other guests had been reported in the house that night and that the booking had been single-family. The timestamp on the upload matched Sydney's messages. Neighbors' noise complaints did not align with anything unusual. Possible natural explanations include an unnoticed vibration, someone closing an exterior door, a heavy footstep transmitting through the structure, or a magnetic or mechanical defect in the phone case that allowed a sudden shift. A more prosaic possibility, an unsteady placement on a shallow tread combined with a gentle nudge from a passing leg. On the other hand, witnesses insist the phone was far from the edge and that no one else entered the stairwell. The clip is brief, clean, and leaves a single unsettled detail. The family portrait nearest the landing, its glass reflecting a dark, human-shaped smudge that, on pause, does not match anyone shown in subsequent footage from the same night. The second account centers on Craig, a contractor working alone in an empty house marked for months-long renovation. He recorded a steady, horizontal clip from a handheld cam as he moved through the shell of the property, narrating tasks aloud with the professional pragmatism of someone mapping work to do. Window here, run electrical there. At about the 7-minute mark, in a portion Craig later clipped and uploaded separately, his phone, propped against a workbench, gently slides forward as if an unseen hand pressed its back. The movement is slow but sustained, enough that the device falls off the bench and smashes against a concrete floor. There is the sound of impact, then silence. Craig kicks the phone aside and curses. In a later upload, he shows the bench, scuff marks on the edge, no drafty opening nearby, a window sealed shut. He contacts the property owner. Records show the house had not been rented and there were no scheduled visits that day. Investigators who reached out to Craig by comment asked about vibration sources, heavy machinery on the street, an unsecured power tool, or whether the bench sat on a slanted surface. Craig insisted the bench was stable and that he had set his phone on a small rubber mat that should have kept it from moving. Colleagues who worked the same week described the house as quiet and empty. One coworker in the comments wrote, "If someone had been there, I'd have heard them. We were all in and out and nothing." On the other hand, the footage's angle suggests the bench was precisely at the edge of a floorboard seam. Small vibrations amplified across a plank could produce a sliding effect. Another possible explanation is a sudden release of tension in an unseen strap or clamp used earlier and left nearby. The third case comes from a renovation crew in Puerto Rico that found a closet lined with old dolls and a photograph of a small child. The lead uploader, a foreman, posted a clip with the caption, "Closet reopened, then this happened." The footage shows 4 men prying a rusted door open. A stale, dust-thick air issues from the space. One worker reaches in, the camera POV jittering as he pulls out a porcelain doll. When he holds it up, the doll's head seems to rotate slightly on its own. The men react with nervous laughter that slips into silence. Later that night, the foreman uploaded a second clip, a mounted time-lapse from an external security camera that captured the closet door creaking open by itself at 2:13 a.m., followed by a shadow that moves just inside the threshold. Workers described the house as abandoned for years. Ants had colonized the frames, and the smell of mildew was constant. They checked for obvious mechanisms: rodents dislodging hinges, wind through a broken pane, a loose latch. The team also acknowledged local stories that the house had been a boarding room decades earlier, but no records confirmed tragic events. Possible natural explanations include double exposure-like reflections from the window opposite the TV, a trick of lighting as a car passed outside, or the brain's tendency to fill in faces from minimal cues. But the uploader emphasized that she had pulled the curtains and turned off the external lights. Her cat, normally indifferent, crept under the sofa and refused to come out for the remainder of the night. In the comments, viewers debated whether the reflection was an artifact of the TV's processing or something else entirely, pointing to subtleties like the angle of the camera and the precise timing of the frames where the silhouette appears. The final account originates from a creator in Pakistan who recorded a series of abrupt disturbances across several nights. Initially a domestic clip, jars falling in the pantry, a sound like someone clawing beneath floorboards, the posts escalated into a dossier, timestamps, neighbor corroborations, and a stranger's voice captured faintly on a morning clip. The uploader documented each event with a mix of shaky handheld footage and fixed cameras. On night 3, a phone left on a table begins to vibrate in place with no incoming call. On night 5, a child's toy across the room topples when no one is near it. The creator, who documented himself calmly checking the house in daylight, posted a plea for help more than once, saying, "We have never experienced anything like this. We don't want to be here when it gets worse." In this case, the community response was immediate and divided. Some suggested poltergeist activity, citing the catalog of object movement and the repeated pattern. Engineers in the comments proposed mechanical causes, an old wiring fault producing micro-vibrations, mice in the walls, or a neighbor's transformer cycling. Other viewers pointed out the ubiquity of editing, that a motivated creator could splice clips to manufacture a narrative. The uploader addressed those accusations by publishing uncut dawn-to-dusk footage intended to show continuity. Skeptics countered that uncut footage can still be manipulated if the source device is compromised. The most clinically unsettling element was a sound captured on night 6, a low, guttural growl that confidence couldn't locate. Acoustic analysts who chimed in suggested sources ranging from HVAC resonance to a distant dog amplified by the house's geometry. The uploader stopped posting after a final clip in which he says he will move to a relative's home for safety reasons. Across these 6 cases, certain threads repeat themselves. Witnesses produce timestamps, contact hosts or landlords, and invite scrutiny. Dogs and cats often register disturbances before humans do. Reflections and thresholds recur as motifs. Doorways and TV glass become frames where the ordinary blurs. Each uploader allows viewers to examine raw material, and each retains a degree of uncertainty. Where credible verification exists, it strengthens or weakens particular hypotheses. Sydney's messages, the host's confirmation, and the phone's clean metadata close off the "someone else was there" option for her clip, pushing investigators toward environmental or mechanical causes. Craig's colleagues corroborated the emptiness of the renovation site, yet failed to explain how a device on a bench slid with such precision. The Puerto Rico crew offered timestamps and worker reactions, but an abandoned house produces many plausible natural movements. The Reddit photos metadata made a technological artifact likely, but the dog's later behavior resists technological reduction. The woman with the TV reflection controlled for external light and still saw an outline. In Pakistan, multi-night patterns and neighbor testimony complicate the simple hoax theory. For each case, at least two alternative explanations remain viable. Sydney's stairwell: 1. Structural vibration transmitted through stair framing. 2. Minor optical illusion amplified by a startled witness. Craig's bench: 1. Floorboard flex combined with a rubber mat failure. 2. A small mechanical tool left nearby that released tension. The Puerto Rico closet: 1. Rodents or wind moving dolls and doors. 2. Deliberate staging by someone aware of the worker's presence. The Reddit doorway photo: 1. Camera-long exposure artifact. 2. A real person who left before recording continued. The TV reflection: 1. Window/glass reflection or TV processing lag. 2. An unseen person who left the frame quickly. The Pakistani poltergeist dossier: 1. Electrical or structural causes creating vibrations and peculiar sounds. 2. Coordinated editing, or, less likely given uncut uploads, an unrecognized natural acoustic phenomenon. A responsible approach to each case means following the evidence while outlining safety. None of the uploaders encourage confrontation. When the Puerto Rico crew found the closet, they removed themselves, photographed, and reported to the property manager. Investigators reviewing the case recommend the same procedure: document first, then alert the owner. For viewers, the consistent rule is clear: do not enter locked or potentially occupied spaces alone. Contact hosts or local authorities. Preserve original files and metadata. And if you choose to re-examine footage, avoid amplifying or altering it in ways that could obscure the original data. Technical notes about verification recur like a checklist. Original files and timestamps matter. Uncompressed formats are harder to fake. Multiple angles and corroborating sensors, doors with motion-activated lights, exterior cameras, or sound recorders strengthen a claim. Community analysis can catch inconsistencies: a reflected light that fails to track with known sources, for instance, or a timestamp mismatch. But community analysis also produces noise. People with different expertise raising competing hypotheses, sometimes without access to full data. Sensory detail threads through many accounts in ways that resist tidy explanation. Observers mention a drop in temperature near a doorway. Pets refuse to enter a room. Ambient silence becomes oppressive just before an occurrence. These human elements are as important as pixels and metadata because they reveal what the witnesses experienced. They also complicate reductionist accounts. If a camera artifact can reproduce a pale figure, why does the dog freeze? If structural vibrations can move a phone, why would the family portrait's reflection show an impossible shape? These contradictions are the narrative's engine. They keep the cases unresolved and the conversation alive. What is striking across all six is not a single smoking gun, but a pattern. Ordinary spaces rendered uncanny by hesitation, by a small anomaly that refuses to be smoothed away. The stairwell is still a stairwell after Sydney's upload. Craig still has work to do at the house. The dolls remain in their closet. Each uploader, in their way, asks the same question without expecting a definitive answer. What happens in the spaces we think we know? Before closing this account, a note on ethics and caution. If you ever encounter footage that seems to show unexplained activity, preserve the original file, avoid sensational edits, and refrain from entering privately owned or locked properties. Contact the owner or local authorities if safety could be at risk. Do not provoke or attempt to recreate potentially dangerous situations. If you intend to share, provide context.
Timestamps, original captions, and any follow-up corroboration will help others weigh the evidence responsibly. These 6 encounters remain, in their different ways, unresolved. Some tilt toward mechanical or optical explanations under scrutiny. Others retain details that resist easy dismissal. The footage is compelling not because it proves the supernatural, but because it preserves moments where ordinary life brushes against something that could be explained or could be otherwise. If you have footage that raises questions, send it in for review. And if you have a theory about any of these cases, leave it below. We will continue to collect, verify, and present material that invites careful, evidence-first discussion.